Hello, good evening, and welcome to your weekend destination for political discourse live on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us on what promises to be yet another engaging and exciting discussion on Sunday politics live on Trust TV. Well, of course, on this particular edition, we give you an opportunity to also be a part of the conversation as we weigh in on an ever-evolving topical issue making the rounds in the country. Now, with the Supreme Court's ruling granting financial autonomy to local councils, the spotlight now turns on how to effectively administrate the local government areas in the country. Stakeholders emphasize that this is a critical opportunity for the third tier of government to reclaim its constitutional role and significantly improve the lives of the citizens. Local councils situated at the grassroots level are crucial for national prosperity. And to make the most of this autonomy, it has become essential that resources allocated to these councils are meticulously managed, supervised, and monitored by stakeholders. Now, the focus should be on addressing basic needs and enhancing community services. Historically, local councils have been responsible for providing vital services such as primary healthcare, sanitation, and community maintenance. To ensure this autonomy has meaningful impact, councils must, of course, prioritize these people-centric responsibilities. However, this landmark decision will not take immediate effect. It is to be implemented in October later this year, as the federal government and state governors work to refine its application as well as implementation. Meanwhile, there is an ongoing debate between the federal and state governments regarding the palliative scheme intended to alleviate the current socio-economic hardship in the country. Now, the pressing question remains how much accountability and transparency are embedded in these systems. Can Nigerians trust the institutional processes to deliver on their promises? Joining us on Sunday Politics tonight is the Chief of Staff at the Adamawa State Government House. Dr. Amos Edgar is joining us for this conversation tonight. Doctor, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Let's start this way. What, in your view, is the best way to dimension this conversation, especially when we talk about local government autonomy, given its nationwide interest and how this particular conversation has polarized people in the polity?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me lend my weight to the euphoria about the need to strengthen the administration at the local government level. A strong, effective, responsible, and responsive local government administration is very good for the country. It enhances and strengthens our democracy because it provides opportunities early enough at the grassroots level for people to aspire to be councillors, to be chairmen, and so on and so forth. So it strengthens the democratic process and affects the democracy nationally. It also provides opportunities, like you said, to address basic problems that society faces: water, culverts, primary healthcare centers, and so on and so forth. So to that extent, I think it is important that we do everything to strengthen local government administration. But I think the euphoria is misplaced because the Supreme Court ruling, in my view, is problematic. Problematic legally, operationally, and even politically. Problematic in the sense that the Constitution is very clear. By the way, the Constitution is supposed to be the fulcrum around which all laws revolve. Is the grand norm. Is what, in fact, it is elementary law to say that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any law that is in conflict with the Constitution is illegal, null and void to the extent of the inconsistency. I think this is very basic. Now, the framers of the 1999 Constitution provides not for direct funding of local governments. And it is in the Constitution, section 162, subsection 5, 6, 7, is very clear. If, therefore, funds from the federation account are to go to local governments directly, then we must amend those portions of the Constitution. As long as in that Constitution, the judgment of the Supreme Court, in my view, is in error, because it conflicts with what is in the Constitution. The Constitution provides for how you can amend it. So if a law is, I really don't think that the 1999 framers are ignorant of the need to have autonomy. But I think it is in the operation of the autonomy that it is perceived that governors withhold funds meant for local governments. But be that as it may, if there are problems with it, then it should be amended through the processes that the Constitution itself has provided. Because why we respect the Supreme Court is because of the Constitution. And if we can ignore Section 162, we can as well ignore the sections that give supremacy to the Supreme Court. So it is problematic as long as those portions are still there in the Constitution. Then it has to be amended, expunged, or crafted in a way that it allows for that to happen. Otherwise, joint account is in that Constitution, and that has not been eliminated.
Just on that point, before we make progress, you talk about how the Constitution is the groundnum, and of course, it's in black and white. It is that same Constitution that gives the Supreme Court, or the courts generally, the judiciary, the power to interpret some of these laws. I mean, they might look black and white, but when it goes to the courts do have the prerogative to actually interpret the Constitution.
I've read the judgment. I've read the judgment.
Yeah.
They are also saying, although the Constitution said so, and any attempt,
and as far as you're concerned, that is
in black and white. I don't think it's elementary English. I don't think anybody can. And like one judge said in one ruling, he said, any interpretation of a particular law beyond its simple meaning is divination, is sorcery, is not interpretation. As far as it's concerned, it is what the infamous intended. And that is what
you're saying. There's no ambiguity with regards to the provisions of the Constitution, and therefore the Supreme Court's interpretation is flawed.
It's what they are saying is that because the governors are abusing it, they are now correcting it. So in their own way, they are now making a declaratory and progressive, an attempt to.
Is there a law, to your knowledge, that says local governments cannot have funds directly sent to them? There's a law that says.
I mentioned Section 162.
Yeah, but it doesn't say you cannot give it directly.
What it says that funds that stand to the credit of local government. First of all, Section 5 also says you should pay to states for their meaning the local governments belong to states. Funds that stand credit to the local government should be paid to the states for their local governments. It also says there should be a joint account where local government funds should be paid. It's in black and white. So it's quite clear. But if governors are abusing it, it's wrong. I don't support it, but we should amend it. The National Assembly is there. The process of amending the Constitution has also been provided in that same Constitution. So expunge it. As far as those portions are concerned, if they are there as they still are, paying funds directly to local governments is unconstitutional because it's not what it is. As a matter of fact, there is also a provision for states to also contribute funds to local governments. So it's not just about
but this doesn't have a direct bearing on, the financial autonomy that we're talking about.
As it is, the ruling, in my view, is in error. With all due respect to their lordships, it's in error. So legally speaking, that is a problem. Operationally, too, the local governments do not have. The federal government has a Federal Civil Service Commission. There is a State Civil Service Commission. The local governments don't have Local Government Service Commission. It exists, but it is the state that appoints them. So which means it is still the states that will control the staffing, the recruitment from level 6 and above, the recruitment, discipline, promotion, and so on and so forth of local government staff is still going to be controlled by the states. The local government don't have a Bureau for Public Procurement. They will still have to depend on the states. The local government doesn't have a judiciary. They will still have to depend on the states. So operationally, it's problematic. And then politically, Nigeria is supposed to be a federation. Which means
it is a federation.
If it is a federation, then you have two federating units. Is it the states that are the federating units or the local governments?
It's clearly the states that are federating units, but as a tier of government.
What the federation means is that the federating units are semi-autonomous. We borrowed our constitution from the United States. The states have their constitutions. They determine whether city councils, mayors,
they have their laws.
Absolutely. So if it is a federation, then you have two layers of federating units. You cannot have three federating units.
Yeah, but they're not federating it. They are a tier of government.
If they are a tier of government, then they depend on the federating units, because you are now bringing unitary system. If you are from the federation, from the federal government, insisting that this is how things will be done, because that same constitution, section 162, talks about those funds being sent to local government in a manner that will be determined by the state houses of assembly. Because even in the intendment of the framers, they said they are local governments. They said for the local governments in their jurisdiction. You know, those kind of frames intends that the federation and the states are the federative units. But as it is, if you, in fact, let me give another example. At federal account allocation committee meetings, where funds are to be shared, it is the accountant general of the federation and the accountant general of the states. You don't have accountant general of the local government sitting there, which means they should also have their own accountant general.
Well, the advocacy is not about the independence of local government. It's about...
They are related. If you cannot spend it, because the staff who are going to spend it are going to be workers, and the workers are going to be determined by the state local government service commission.
There are always areas of collaboration, isn't it, in government?
And as a matter of fact,
even between states and federal government.
In terms of the federation accounts, in terms of finances, the federal government is actually doing worse than what it is accusing states of. Because the constitution says all funds that the federation collects shall be shared. Not all funds does the federal government collect that they share. Because assume it is 10 naira.
I'm sure there are stratifications to this particular...
The constitution didn't say so. The constitution says all revenues except personal income tax of army, police, and so on. But all shall.
So what exactly are you accusing the federal government of?
I'm accusing the federal government if they collect 10 naira, they don't bring 10 naira to the table for sharing.
Where's the evidence of that? Exactly.
I mentioned revenue from NPA, Port Authority. It doesn't come. It doesn't come to federation account. Besides, sometimes when they collect 10 naira, they brazenly say, we will only share 5 naira. Because if we share all the 10 naira, there will be inflation and some excuses, one excuse or the other. And in the 5 naira, they also take part.
In hindsight, isn't that a good thing? Because we all remember prior to 2012, when then Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, talked about the need to save for rainy day. It was these same governors that said, listen, don't save anything. Give us all the money now. Let's just take care of business. And 10, 12 years down the line, we're kind of like scratching our heads, regretting that particular decision.
Okay, two things. First of all, where do they keep those bonus that they claim they are keeping? They don't keep
the reserves?
They don't reserve it. They spend it. I'm making the
allegation.
I'm making they spend it. They also spend it. So the Supreme Court should also say the federal government is not doing what it is accusing states of.
It's not to say that the governors are not complaining about it. So why do you think that this is an issue?
As I'm speaking to you, the Adamawa state governor has gone to Supreme Court on this matter to also seek interpretation, because they are not sharing all that is there. Besides, the state governors can also tell you that those who are tampering with local government funds, they will say, okay, we are helping the local governments. Because don't forget, in the 1979 Constitution, there was no joint account. But that was the era where we had problems of difficulty in paying primary school teachers' salaries, primary healthcare workers, and so on and so forth. And there are some state governors who tell you that in the joint account, states actually augment what comes to local governments. Without some of this augmentation, they say some local governments will not even be able to pay salaries.
Some states also use local government funds for their capital projects.
Now, that is wrong. At any rate, every inch of a state's territory belongs to one local government or the other. So even if it constructs a project in a particular place, it belongs to a local government. However, just like you are saying, the federal government can justify why it is keeping portions of it. That is why some state governors can also claim to justify it on the basis that it is...
Doctor, looking at our track record, do you think governors have enough to show why they should still run the affairs of the local councils?
No. No. I'm not. I'm for autonomy of local governments.
Right.
I am for autonomy.
I mean, your argument seems to be supporting...
No. Yeah. My point is, the intendment of the framers of the 1999 Constitution intend that local governments should have autonomy, but there will be a joint account into which certain joint projects, for example, the funding of primary school teachers, funding of primary school education at that level, primary healthcare, it should be done jointly. Or like in my state, there is Adamawa State University, and the law provides that some percentage from every local government should be contributed to it. So I think it makes sense.
Why are you saying that concurrently, if states and local governments, councils are doing something jointly, it has to be in a joint account? I mean, surely they can send whatever portion they're supposed to send in terms of percentages, which can be, within the state laws.
It is possible.
Right.
I'm only bringing the in account because it is the constitution that says so. But what you are saying is valid. It is possible.
I mean, is joint account not just strictly for disbursement?
No.
Nothing more?
No.
I mean, what we're seeing is control from state governors.
Yeah, but then, first of all, have you attended any joint account committee meeting?
So I'm sure I'm not qualified to.
So why?
I mean, the argument is in public.
Give me an example where it happened.
The argument is in public, isn't it? I mean, just as you said, when it's time to share the federation account allocation, you have the federal accountant general of the federation, and you have the state accountant general, right? You don't have the local government in participation.
Yes, but in terms of account, it's made up of the commissioner for local government affairs, representing the governor, and all the local government chairmen. That is where AJAC meets. AJAC, it is the governor represented by the commissioner for local government who chairs the meeting, and all the local government chairmen, they are the ones who decide matters.
Don't they go there cap in hand, Doctor, if you're being honest? Don't these local government chairmen, who are mostly quote-unquote stooges of the governor, go there cap in hand, waiting for whatever it is that the state wants to give them?
I hope you choose your words carefully.
That's why I said quote-unquote. That is the public perception of the situation.
Yeah, but that is why we should be able to strengthen our democracy so that those who emerge as chairmen are people who know their onions. We should be able to encourage credible people to come up as councillors, as local government chairmen. I know that there are states where you have professors, PhD holders that are local government chairmen. I don't think you will see them as stooges. So to me, it's neither here nor there. I am for strengthening the local government administration, but I am also saying that if we see the governors abusing it, we should change it.
You say
but
if?
I say if, because I know as a matter of fact that in my state, the operation is good, where it comes to joint account, and there are very credible, laudable, impactful projects that come out of which all the funds are dispersed to local governments. So within what is, apart from those statutory deductions, funds are sent to all local governments and published in a newspaper what each local government has collected. Within that framework, the local government chairmen are at liberty, and they have the autonomy to expend those resources as they seem fit for the good of their people.
Let's take a case in point from your state, Adamawa State, for instance. Prior to the arrival of the Fincho administration, or the inception of the Fincho administration, I think some 3-4 years ago or thereabout, Tongo local government, for instance, since its creation, for instance, we know about the challenges when it comes to power supply, for instance.
Yeah.
They've not had power supply for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had that autonomy. Wouldn't a local government chairman provide that for his local government?
Yeah, even the local governments, at the moment there is electricity in Tongo.
Yeah, courtesy of the state government. I'm saying, why does it have to take that long?
It is wrong. Why, if it is something that, why are you linking it to joint account?
Because the local governments don't manage their resources.
Is it what the Tongo chairman told you?
No, I mean, it goes without saying, because if they're in control of their resources, for instance, I can imagine that the people will set the agenda that we need power supply in our local government, and they would channel the resources coming to them directly to providing power for the people.
Is it only electricity that Tongo?
No, I'm just saying, case in point.
So and actually, those kinds of projects are based on by the federal government and the state government, because they are capital intensive. So they are best handled by the federal government and the state government. And in this case that you are showing. The state government has responded effectively and has provided electricity to that community. So, however,
24 years or so.
No, I don't subscribe to that. I don't support it. And I don't think it is fair to ascribe it to the inability. In fact, it is the failure of both the federal and the state government, because Tongo people also have a right to get electricity provided by the federal government. So why are you blaming only why are you not blaming the federal government for not providing electricity to Tongo? Because they also deserve electricity like every other community.
I mean, the federal government is trying to solve the problem by giving them financial autonomy, and the states are standing in the way.
You don't even know how much Tongo has to be able to meet its salary obligations and what remains, and whether it is capable of providing electricity or not. You don't.
But hypothetically, in 20 years, you imagine if they're channeling every resources that they have to address power supply, they would have done that.
You also know, for example, that they have a challenge of road. So why are you only picking electricity?
Yeah, it's just to make one example out of many.
Yeah. However, I want you to be clear about this, that I am in favor of funds meant for local government to go to local governments. I am against anybody depriving local governments of their funds. So I really don't know what point
your line of argument seems to say that, you know, things can only be done if the states are managing the resources.
No. If we think that there should be funds that should go directly to local government, we must address the issue of the law, whether it is legal and constitutional.
So your concern is just purely legal?
That is one. I'm also concerned about the operability, whether it is going to be operational. I'm also concerned whether we want, because there has been agitation about true federalism, we should, you can imagine what used to obtain when we had regions. There's been agitation. On the one hand, we are agitating for decentralization of power, more federalism, and we are going around again to be advocating for policies that tend to strengthen unitary system of government. That is my one point. So if we could address all those things, I mean, so be it. Democracy is an evolutionary process, so whatever we think will work for us, let it do. But as it is on this issue, in as much as I subscribe to, because it is still autonomy, the framers of the 1999 Constitution still conceive of local governments to be autonomous, but they still made provision for joint account. If the Supreme Court, or indeed anybody, let me give this example. President Tinubu, when he was governor of Lagos State, was telling the local governments as belonging to Lagos State. That was why he even created some LCDs, and he had problems with Obasanjo. Don't forget that the same Supreme Court overruled Buhari when he promulgated Order 10, which sought the same thing that the current ruling is all about. Order 10 of President Buhari sought to direct that the Accountant General should send funds directly to local councils, which the same Supreme Court overruled. Now the Supreme Court has again given another ruling, which is counter to what it had earlier ruled.
Yeah, but okay, let's make progress and talk about it, because you talked about the operational side of it. You also mentioned the legal aspect of it, but you also said the political. So what's the political issue there?
The political issue is that we will be bastardizing our federalism.
How so?
If we say the presidency will now dictate, ordinarily, a local government that is close to the Atlantic Ocean or near the Sahara Desert, they should determine their own priorities. But as it is, we are now going into a situation where it is the presidency that dictates what happens at the local government level. Now, we are going back to unitary system. That is the point I'm trying to stress. So we are in a kind of a contradictory situation. We are advocating for federalism, but we are again contradicting ourselves by a situation where it is the federal government that determines what happens at the local government level.
Is it a determination of how they run their affairs?
Clearly.
How so? How is financial autonomy for local governments the federal government indirectly running the show?
A number, again, you've not read the judgment. There are a number of things. No state should dissolve councils. Councils should only be
have elected
only elected leadership. Funds should go only directly. Here recently there is talk about abrogating state independent electoral commissions so that INEC should be the one to do it, and so on and so forth. So
a lot of people welcome that, by the way. I wonder where you stand on that one. Because most of our council elections look like a sham from
two things.
From everything that we've
Before I answer that question,
yeah.
the point I wanted to stress was that if we feel that, you can address some things legally, but you can address some other things through enlightenment, advocacy, persuasion, values, and so on and so forth. There are so many things that are in our law books. For example, the Constitution talks about you don't decamp from one party to the other, but senators, reps, they decamp, and nothing happens and all that. So these are the things. So in terms of whether state independent electoral commissions should be conducted, my view is that we should still allow state independent electoral commissions to continue conducting elections and strengthen or correct wherever we observed any lapses. If INEC is the one to conduct it, the experience of the governorship election in my state has shown that the INEC in my state is worse than what the state independent electoral commissions have done.
How so?
When an election is going on, a resident electoral commissioner will come with this piece of paper and announce the election of a governorship candidate.
You talk about an anomaly of one individual, not the institution. With regards to the State Independent Electoral Commission, with all due respect to them, it's an institutional failure.
Which means it can happen, because it has happened in my state. And if that is what you are
an attempt was made. An attempt was made, doctor. An attempt was made rather unsuccessfully.
Fine. So if it is that kind of INEC that will conduct election at the local government level, it's better we have the Adamawa, we have the state independent electoral commissions. Don't even forget that if it is federally, is it not recently that we are talking about state police? Because it doesn't mean that anything federal is better than whatever it is at the state level.
I think with the issue of state police it's more strategy, it's more operational, it's more scale. It's more,
but what is clear,
command systems.
What gave rise to it is because of the level of insecurity that we are experiencing, in spite of the fact that we have a federal police. So my view, therefore, is that the challenges and criticisms of the conduct of local government elections are valid, in my view, but they can be corrected. That is the point I'm trying to stress, because it doesn't guarantee that if you allow INEC to conduct elections, they will do it any better, because we have examples to show. In my own case, I have an example with the governorship election, which was quite...
it was chaotic, but nothing bad happened at the end of the day. All things considered, it was a
vice chancellor was beaten up and stripped to the pants. Right. I don't think if you are a relative, you will. No,
I'm saying that these things do happen, but at the end of the day, the elections stood the taste of time.
So that do that kind of a thing to be the ones to conduct the elections.
I am saying that a lot of Nigerians, based on popular demand, Nigerians feel INEC is going to do a better job than the state independent electoral commissions, and we see that right now happening in Kaduna, for instance, where the Independent Electoral Commission, the State Independent Electoral Commission, is trying to impose a fine that undermines the participation of opposition political parties. In your state, Adamawa State, for instance, 2 months ago or thereabout, when the local council elections happened, it was largely boycotted by every other political party. It was more or less a one-party show of the PDP winning virtually everything. And that, to so many people, is one of the reasons why you cannot trust the state independent umpire to conduct credible elections in the state.
Political parties have won councillorship elections in Adamawa State.
Councillorship?
Yes.
We're talking about local council elections where the chairman usually calls the shot.
As it is at the moment, I doubt if any political party in Adamawa State will beat the PDP in any election.
So you would say that you're a PDP member.
I'm not disappointing you. Right. So because the governor has worked, he has bonded with the people. So I think there is a basis for me to say so. So I don't know why APC decided not to participate.
That's rather presumptuous.
I've also seen...
It's about elections. People can decide to vote whoever they want to vote for.
I've also seen PDP boycotting elections too in another state, local government elections. But my view, therefore, is that the conduct of local government elections can be improved upon, and I think we should work towards improving it. Just like conduct of elections at the federal and the gubernatorial level too can be improved upon. I think we should work on increasingly improving it. I don't think you will hold the presidential election as a paragon of what an election should be, conducted by INEC.
All I'm saying is the jury is out about who Nigerians want to conduct and organize the council elections.
Okay.
As much as they have their reservations about the performance of INEC, they think INEC
I don't have
stands
a problem.
better chance at doing a good job with our council elections.
If the overwhelming majority of Nigerians prefer INEC to conduct elections at the local government level, I don't have a problem with that. Let it go through the constitutional process and amend the constitution and make INEC conduct elections. My own skepticism is simply that we are overblowing and overhyping the situation when we think that in this same Nigeria, this same INEC will do a better job than Adamawa.
Let's play a hypothetical here. If you are a local government chairman today, would you want that autonomy to come no matter what?
No, I wouldn't want it.
Why not?
I would prefer that because we are trying to strengthen our democracy. We want the autonomy.
Doctor, you know that the law is a work in progress. There is no perfect law.
Absolutely. Let us in the imperfection of the process, let us use it. It is dangerous to say we can break the law. It is dangerous to
bend it, maybe.
But
break it.
This is complete, not just bending, bombing the law, because the Constitution has made very clear provisions. And what this ruling is contradicts directly what the provisions of the Constitution are. Yeah. That's just my own point. Because it is possible that if the pressure is made to the National Assembly, they may amend it.
Okay.
Because after all, in 1979, there was no joint account. In 2029, in the 1999 Constitution, in 1979, there was no joint account. In 1999, there is. So there is nothing sacrosanct about joint account. It can go, but let it go through a process.
Okay. It's safe to say that your interest is purely academic at this point when it comes to...
I disagree with you because I gave you practical situations when they're operable.
I mean, you support it, you just, on the academic side of it, you just want the amendments to happen first, instead of, the courts interpreting the law in the way that it interpreted it.
You see, my view therefore is that even in the amendment, we shouldn't let it not be absolute. Otherwise, we run the risk of destroying our federalism and reversing to unitary system. So even if we want to amend it, my view would have been that let it be within the context of what a federation should be.
Okay, let's open up the conversation to our viewers. Let's hear what they have to say about this one. Feel free to weigh in on the conversation. Call in. Give us your take, your thoughts, your 2 cents on this one. Local government administration, it is a conversation that continues to reverberate across the country. We understand that because of this new compromise this past week before the Council of State, the federal government as well as the governors have decided because of certain operational issues to suspend its implementation until the month of October. So let's hear what you have to say about this one, especially given all the positions of our guests on the program tonight. The number is shown on your TV screen. A quick reminder, rules of engagement: please turn down the volume of your TV set while calling in. Try to be as articulate and as concise as you can be with your contribution and go straight to the point. I would love to hear what you have to say about this one. Let's segue a little bit and talk about the state of the nation right now. Okay, before we do that, let's speak to our first caller then. Hello, good morning. Good evening, I beg your pardon.
Good evening.
Welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Yeah, good evening once again. Abdullah Ahmad and Dr. Amos in the studio. You are speaking to Ali Umar Shamaki from Akong, National State.
Shamaki, it's always good to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining the conversation. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, you see, I thought whether this issue of come and gone already, because if you look at it, the Supreme Court have ruled out already, and before the chairman cannot execute any project in their various local government because the money given to them cannot do anything, because once they pay salary, there is no overhead cost, the money will just finished. So I'm surprised when I heard some chairmen from Oyo State saying that their subvention should channel to their government before giving to them, well after all this struggle has been made. So to me, if this autonomy is being given to them, I believe they can do the right thing, because if they refuse, the people of that grassroots, they will...
Hello, Shamaki. Okay, I think we've lost our connection to Shamaki. They're calling in from Nasarawa, but of course, I think we got the gist. Yeah, I think we got the gist there. The ends justifies the means, basically, especially considering where we're at right now. Do you understand the sentiment of the people when it comes to local government autonomy?
Yes. The overriding majority is that there should be autonomy at the local government level. That is the overriding majority, and it is optimistic that if that is done, that is without going through Jack, it is assumed that the development in terms of infrastructure at the local government level will be better. And that I understand.
Okay. Colin, let's have more of these contributions. But before we speak to our next caller, I want to talk about one other issue that has become quite central to the conversation we've been having recently with regards to the federal government and the state governments when it comes to palliative distribution. But before we do that, let's speak to our next caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the program. Your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, I want to contribute to tell you people that Nigeria have 3 tiers of government. These 3 tiers of government have to also execute their administration. This joint account is just to put people into dilemma. In the sense of that, this is just a complete right way that everybody should execute their own tiers of government as it has been meant. And if not, let Nigeria go back and then revisit the constitution of Nigeria, which they want to go into joint account,
right,
which is seems illegal.
Right. Okay, I didn't catch your name and I don't know where you're calling from. So do you mind sharing that with us?
I'm Dr. Govts from Mambila.
Right.
I'm from Mambila province, then.
Right, okay.
Mambila Native Authority.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for calling. And of course, a lot of people, share that sentiment.
So the 3 tiers of government, there's nobody that says joint accounts will continue.
Okay.
Joint accounts.
Okay, I think he's making both cases around how amendments should also come in, but this is long overdue to give the councils their quote-unquote autonomy. I want to talk about this particular point just very briefly. The states and the federal government were going back and forth about the hardship funds, quote-unquote, that was disbursed to ameliorate the pains and sufferings of Nigerians. We all understand what is currently happening in the country. When it comes to making life better for Nigerians feel like as much as we should focus on the federal government's economic direction, there's a lot of resources that the states get that they have not effectively deployed to serve as a stopgap to the suffering of the people. What are your thoughts about that, especially considering what the governors have had to say? Because Adamawa State is one of those states that came out and said, listen, you talk about all of these rights that have been sent to the states, we haven't gotten ours yet. And some of these other states have also come out to say this. What can you tell us about whether the states are doing their best, everything possible to make life much easier for Nigerians at this moment?
Before that, I have heard ministers and some others in the wake of the nationwide protest raising those concerns that people should ask the state governors. The protests, incidentally, the protesters that came to Government House in Yola, I was the one who received them on behalf of the governor. And all they raised were issues of policies of the federal government. Are governors the ones who remove fuel subsidy? Are they the ones
they're in agreement with removing fuel subsidy?
On the day of the swearing in of Mr. President, he said subsidy is gone. Abdul, let us be, there was no meeting with governors.
Oh, but we already know their position, even long before Tinubu came. Governors have always been for subsidy removal.
Whatever it is.
No, but not whatever, doctor. Let's agree that they support subsidy removal.
I'm saying that whether they agree to it or not, the person who removes subsidy is Tinubu on 29th
with the support of the governors.
That is not true, because it was in his broadcast.
You're saying the governors don't support subsidy removal?
That is a different subject. My point is that it is on the day he was sworn in. He said subsidy
of course,
is gone.
The governors cannot announce removal of fuel subsidy.
Has he and I had a meeting with the governors? At any rate, the point I'm saying is that it is the removal of subsidy by the president. It is removal of electricity tariff. It is floating of the exchange rate. These are the policies that led people to protest. However, if people are asking what governors are doing, it's a legitimate question. I think governors should be able to answer. Every governor should be able to answer that question. People have a right to ask governors. If you ask my governor, he will tell you. I will also tell you.
But do you also
my point
think
is that it is right for people to demand, what are you doing? And ask objectively, not subjectively. If you feel that governors are given resources, you have a legitimate right to ask them. But these recent protests were not about that. They were about hardships that were experienced as a result of policies by the federal government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Let's talk about Adamawa State. Like many of the other 36 states of the Federation, since the removal of fuel subsidy, we've seen an astronomical increase in your Federation allocation. Which,
not astronomical.
Quite astronomical indeed.
Okay, give us figures. Don't
the first figure, and I wish we could put up that graphic, especially from last year. Adamawa State allocation jumped from over 61 billion to about 90-something billion in terms of the data is there, and I think
how much was being generated or was being allocated to Adamawa before subsidy removal and after subsidy removal.
That's exactly the rough estimate I'm giving you from the first quarter of the removal of fuel subsidy from May to up until August, for instance. That is exactly the figure that was shared with us by the federal government around how not just Adamawa State, by the way, every other state has seen a significant jump in its federation allocation.
Give me the figures in dollars. You will discover that the figure has dropped.
Is it more money or not? But is it more money or not?
The value is less. The value, because
does the Adamawa State government spend its allocation in dollars?
No, I am talking about what you buy in the market. At least the bag of rice, how much was it costing before the subsidy removal? How much is it costing after the subsidy removal? So these are the parameters we're talking about.
Right, okay. Let's speak to our next caller then. Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Yeah, welcome to the program. Your name, please, and where are you calling from?
This is Engineer Adeleke calling.
Engineer Adeleke, where are you calling from?
Engineer Adeleke from Kogi State, Okene precisely.
Go ahead, Engineer Adeleke.
From Okene.
Go ahead.
You see, the problem that has to do with this local government autonomy is that mostly we are not sincere. If we are sincere, we'll do the right thing. There's nothing wrong with local government economy, but the governor are the one manipulating the whole system. It's a situation that whoever dictates it to him, pay the piper, dictate it to him. So when you see anywhere a particular party is in charge, when they conduct local government election, the whole local government election result will go to that particular asset, which is not ideal.
Engineer Adeleke, doctor here says sometimes if the governor is popular based on his performance.
So there's nothing wrong with that problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Engineer Adeleke. I appreciate you for calling in. I wanted to chip in that question about the popularity of the governor perhaps being the reason why we see some of those landslide victories. By the way, in Bauchi State, the results just came in today, and it's safe to say the opposition parties are condemning the entire process, which has become sort of like a normal tradition now.
Okay. Now the point I'm trying to say is that it is true that the allocation to states and local governments and the federal government has risen very
astronomically.
I don't agree with it. I'm saying that in value terms, because you are talking about, you said whether you buy in dollars or not. The point is, how much was a bag of rice before? How much is the bag of rice now? How much was the bag of cement? How much? These are the things I'm talking about.
Is the government in the business of buying rice and?
No, but I'm talking about the cost of roads and cement, because they award contracts. How much was the cost of a bag of cement? How much is the cost of building materials? So they award contracts, and the cost of contracts will also astronomically rise.
Okay.
This is the point I'm.
So you're basically saying that while you get more money on the left hand, the right hand is taking everything
as a result of policies of the federal government. This is the point
or just inflation, maybe.
No. As a result of policies of the federal government. Okay. But beyond that, I have kept emphasizing. I repeat myself here. People have a legitimate right to ask governors, what are you doing with our funds?
Right. Okay.
This is a legitimate question.
Yeah. I think we have another caller on the line. So let's speak to our next caller. Hello. Good evening. Hello, good evening. It appears we lost that connection. Feel free to call in as we round down the conversation. The number is showing on your TV screen. But in talking about accountability,
okay, because governors, chairmen of councils, president, they should be accountable. Immediately the policy pronouncement was made, the governor set up a committee. I chaired the committee with the labor. We looked at what impact the removal of fuel subsidy will have on people, and we now design measures. Because we looked at the cost of transportation, the cost of living, the cost of foodstuff, the cost of agri inputs, and we designed measures with the organized labor on how to mitigate those, even before the federal government contemplated how it can cushion those effects. So the governors should be asked questions, and governors should be able to give answers to. It would be unfortunate if a governor will not be able to provide answers.
Do you think the Adamawa state government, I've seen a couple of posts online, perhaps from the administration's detractors or critics, who are saying that, listen, in light of everything that is happening right now, I think there's a renovation project of whether it's the Deputy Governor's Lodge or something like that, which has been heavily criticized. Your governor has also been criticized for investing so much money in capital projects when the social well-being of the people has been badly affected because of the current situation, and not much has been done to address that. What do you say to people who think that that is what is happening in Adamawa State?
First of all, the deputy governor's story is a lie. The deputy governor doesn't have a lodge in Abuja, because the story is about so many billions used to renovate the deputy governor's lodge in Abuja. The deputy governor doesn't have a lodge in Abuja, and so it is not true. Although the mischief there was, somebody said so has been budgeted. It didn't say it was spent. Right. The Sahara reporters, they said 2.something billion has been budgeted. So at least the mischief is guided. In terms of whether governor is only concentrating on capital projects, at least let us consider at least he does capital projects which have economic impact. Because, however, last Thursday alone, 10,000 women were given 50,000 naira each. Just this Thursday, which is the second tranche.
Is that from the Federation allocation of NG Cares?
No.
You're sure, Doctor?
I am sure. I'm not telling you. This is even the second one. There was another batch of
the federal government is saying those monies came in different batches from the World Bank.
You're asking me now, call somebody who is from federal government and ask him. Right. I am now telling you that it is not.
Right. So these are state funds that you're disbursing to women. Right.
So I'm just giving you examples. Just this Thursday, which makes the second 10,000, which means 20,000 in the space of a few months. How can you accuse the governor of not being concerned about that? He pays WAEC fees for children. He gives free no school fees in school. Is it not money in your pocket? If you lift the burden of paying school fees, you lift the burden of paying WAEC fees for parents, is that not concern about the welfare of the citizenry?
Okay, let's talk to this last caller now before we wrap things up. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Good evening. I've been trying you for so many times. I didn't reach you.
Well, I guess it's your luck that you still squeezed in. Go ahead, please. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Is Bukata Ezekiel Sarah calling from Bauchi.
Bukata, how is Bauchi this evening?
Bauchi is cool.
Go ahead.
Actually, I've been hearing your conversation with Doctor, but sincerely speaking, this is state, local government, they need autonomy. In fact, you see, the people are in the grassroots. And if the local government chairman will be sincere to themselves, if they are being given that opportunity of local government autonomy, I think it will help a lot. Because you see, this joint account with governors, sincerely speaking, I don't like that joint account, because most at times the governors, they hijack almost all the funds. They will just give them just the one that they will pay salary to the local governments, and that's all. At times, them too, they don't even have their own say as local government chairman, because they've been installed. In fact, if you look at what happened in Bauchi, you can see it. Almost all, that's how it has been happening. Almost all the local government chairmen now is PDP.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking about that.
And which is not good for the democracy. I know, despite how things are, I know it is not ideal. There must be some parties that they will get.
Yeah, okay.
But as you see, now we can say indirectly now the governor have installed all his people there, so he can do and undo.
Yeah, Bukata, I'm afraid we're going to have to go because we are out of time completely. But thank you so much.
No,
I think
it's okay, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe some other time. But of course, we do appreciate you for checking in. Just before we go, in a few seconds, what do you want people to take away from this conversation?
That all of us should work towards strengthening our democracy. Let me use the last example he gave, that the governors installed the chairman, which means even if you give money directly, you won't solve the problem. So the issues go beyond legalism. That is the point I'm saying. Let us have a robust means of educating ourselves, advocating and ensuring that our democracy thrives. And let those who are governors and chairmen and the president work for the good of the people.
Right.
That's the point I want to emphasize on.
Very interesting and spirited conversation. Dr. Edgar, as always, thank you so much for joining the conversation. We really appreciate you for stopping by on Sunday Politics. Thank you so much for your time.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you for having me.
And as always, thank you most kindly for your time and company. We do appreciate you for tuning in. And of course, for those of you who joined the conversation, thank you so much for adding your voice to the program. Feel free to follow us across our social media platforms just to stay in touch. You can also watch a repeat of this program. You can do that by going to our website, trusttv.com, for all the latest on this and many other programs. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for your time and good night.